and welcome out to Trading Justice, episode number 351. It's Tim here with our feature presentation, an interview with a very compelling and very interesting man, somebody who's been around the markets for a lifetime, feels like a family business that he kind of got into, and he's developed trading software, he's run a company, he's helped people learn how to trade the markets, and been an investor here. I've got Lane Mendelsohn with me. Lane, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Lane, what is your official title? Are you like the CEO of Vantage Point Software? Is that right?
I'm the president of Vantage Point AI, and I'm proud of that just because I received that title just a couple of years ago. And as you mentioned, it's a family-owned and operated business. So we got to a point in time where my father, who's almost 73, said, "You know what? You've been running the company for over a decade now. Now I'm going to officially give you the title of president."
Sure. I mean, that's a really cool story, number one. I come from a background of a family business that I ended up not going into, but many of my brothers still are working in the family business. My dad, he was a coal miner in central, Utah until he was about 30, got out of it. Him and my mom started, several small businesses that ended up becoming family businesses. And it's kind of an interesting deal. Your dad, he started this software company that you guys do trading software, right? And you and I, we met down in Las Vegas at the Traders Expo. You guys had a booth right next to the tackle trading booth. And one of the cool things about those events is you get to rub shoulders and shake hands and talk to people in the industry and get a feel for how they're approaching the markets. And it was a pleasure to meet you guys and great to have you here on this podcast. But your dad started that software company in 1979, literally the year I was born, Lane. That kind of dates me. And I didn't really think of trading software in the 1980s. It felt like those guys were usually doing it on the phone. I mean, what was the original idea behind the company? What was your dad seeing there in the marketplace?
Well, my father had been trading stock options and started that in 1972. And as he got into the late 70s, started trading in the commodities and futures markets. And he was a hospital administrator. So he was kind of doing this on the side. I don't want to say as a hobby because it was generating significant income for him, but it was his passion. Whereas being a hospital administrator, that was his profession. And my dad is a very technical person. He went to Carnegie Mellon, and he's got 2 master's degrees, and he's just very mathematically oriented and loves technology. And even more so than loving the technology, he loves to find practical ways to implement and utilize technology. Mm-hmm. And so in the late 70s, he already had that passion for trading and had been doing it for close to 10 years. But then he saw an advertisement for a Radio Shack product that they were selling, which was a personal computer. And he thought, whoa, this is pretty cool, because he had used computers, mainframe computers at Carnegie Mellon. And he thought, wow, if this is a personal computer and every person could have one, what would that do for traders and investors? And so he really got excited about the possibility of creating trading software that people could have on their own personal computer that they could use to help guide them and make decisions. Mm-hmm. And when he floated the idea past my grandfather, his father-in-law, of, hey, I'm thinking about leaving hospital administration and becoming a software developer and developing software for people like myself to give them an edge in the markets. My grandfather said to my dad, who's gonna buy your software? No one has a computer.
He didn't see the vision, but your dad did. And that usually is what great entrepreneurship will do. I mean, they'll forge forward. If they see something and they believe in it, they don't let even people in their family end up holding them back. And so your dad started into this industry. 40 years in business, obviously you guys are going to have a lot of stories about different growth points, different things that worked, things that did not. Let me ask you, I mean, you've been doing this since 93. You probably, as a kid, watched your dad run the company for a long time as well. What is different today in 2019 compared to, let's say, even the late 90s, early 2000s in the software game? I know I've talked to a lot of traders. One of the differences I know to be a fact is the cost, because it used to be like to get a software package to just chart the markets or track data, forget about backtesting. You're talking about $2, $3, $5, $10,000 just for the package alone. But now costs have come way down over the years, haven't they, Lane?
Yeah, cost has come down, but the other thing that's really changed is the computing power.
Hmm.
So, you mentioned backtesting. My father was the first person in the world who developed backtesting and optimization for a personal computer. This was back in 1983. Well, in 1983, he was developing software that ran on computers that didn't even have hard drives. So it's even hard to imagine, but you would basically put a floppy disk in, you'd start running the program, and then it would say, okay, please take out disk number one and put in disk number two. You would do that, and it would continue running the software, and then you'd put in disk number three, and it would continue to bootstrap in that fashion. Well, as computing power has grown and the cost of computing power has come down, that's allowed companies like ours to really push the envelope in terms of technology and do more than we were previously able to do at lower costs. But for us, it's not so much about saving money or lowering costs. For us, it's we can accomplish more. And I'll give you
Yeah.
a prime example. When we first launched Vantage Point in 1991, we were doing a very sophisticated method of analysis called intermarket analysis, which we can talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But at that point in time, the method of analysis that we were doing is we're looking at just a handful of markets and how they interrelated to each other. Now, with computing power and the robustness of the technology that we've developed, we can look at close to 50 different markets that are linear and non-linearly correlated. And so our goal is the same as it was before, which was to derive takeaways from analyzing data. But now we can analyze so much more data, so much more quickly, so much more in depth. And that's what gives our traders and the Vantage Point family members such a decided edge, more so than they could get anywhere else, but even more so than we were able to provide, even just 5 years ago, really.
Hmm. It's interesting about your dad in 1983 doing backtesting. I find that to be fascinating because, I mean, building an optimized edge in the market is not a new concept, obviously, but putting it into a computer and starting to gather the data, I'm sure that was a huge bump in the way that he approached the markets. And really, that was a revolution going on. Personal trading from home at that time, it kind of all fits the storylines that we've heard. The great traders who came around in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s. Some of the best books in trading, in my opinion, came from that era. So it's really interesting to kind of wrap my head around that. You mentioned a lot of the more advanced stuff that you guys do and that you're looking at right now from a computer and software perspective. One of them that you actually won an award on recently or were recognized as one of the most influential executives in this space was artificial intelligence. Now, AI freaks me out, Lane. I don't know else how to say that. I don't understand exactly what role it's going to play. I don't know exactly if machine learning is going to end up, taking over the industry and kind of arbing out all the edges you have as an individual. What do you think the future is with AI and trading software?
Well, there's a couple scenarios. Let's go back to the early 1990s because artificial intelligence is not new, right? Artificial intelligence has existed for decades and decades. In fact, my father had experience with artificial intelligence in the late 1960s at Carnegie Mellon. And at the time that he was exposed to artificial intelligence, there wasn't a practical application for him. It was just something they were learning about. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Flash forward, now he's developing software to analyze market data and trying to find these intricate and in most cases hidden patterns in data. That's where he thought, oh yes, AI, artificial intelligence. Let me revisit that whole area of math to see how I could apply that. So in the 1990s, early 90s, there were a couple of other people who, after seeing what my dad was doing with artificial intelligence, thought, yeah, AI, neural networks, machine learning, there's something here. Some of the people had really good intentions, but they didn't know how to apply the artificial intelligence and kind of, like they say, garbage in, garbage out. And neural networks, which is a form of artificial intelligence, kind of got a bad rap because it was billed as, almost like the Holy Grail in a way. And then you had people who really didn't understand the techniques and the power. And obviously it didn't produce Holy Grail type results. So then it got kind of a bad rap. Then you had other people who I don't think had good intentions. And it wasn't a case of not really being able to leverage the technology. They were marketers, and they just thought, oh, this is a cool little way to, ensnare people and sell product. And so they never really had anything that was going to give anybody an edge. They were just looking for a quick pop. We see that even today, where people latch onto a topic and try to make a few bucks and then kind of disappear back into the shadows.
How much of the industry do you think is that, by the way? Because you're going to trigger a rant out of me, young man.
Well, I unfortunately, I'd say more than half of the companies and the promoters out there are really looking for a quick buck. They have no intention of being around 10, 20, 30, 40 years like us. A lot of them don't, they don't operate with integrity. But in their minds, they're not looking for longevity. So if they're not looking for longevity, why do they need integrity? Whereas, for us, it's all about, integrity and longevity and carrying on the family name. We're already a second generation company. I have 2 daughters. I hope they'll take over and be the 3rd generation, but that's only if, number 1, we have a product that actually helps people. Number 2, we, create realistic expectations of what the technology will do for people, and support our users so that they can gain maximum advantage. But if you don't have those ingredients, you won't be around for decades. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that long-term mentality. I wish they did. But just going back to the early 1990s, what happened was with neural networks and artificial intelligence is it got a bad rap, and then it kind of faded. Now, my father continued pursuing artificial intelligence, and we never left the concept, because for us, it wasn't a fad. It wasn't a marketing hook. It was what we believed to be the best way to analyze markets and large quantities of data. And so a lot of these people just kind of disappeared. They were, you could call them competitors or, in the space of AI with us, but then they disappeared. And so what's happening now is we, as a company, we've proven that AI is here to stay. We've proven that we can gain a decided edge using AI. And in other industries, you look at medical, you look at, fighting crime. I mean, there's not an industry that you could mention that they're not already utilizing AI in some capacity. It's now a fact that AI can do things that are, it's humanly impossible and can add real value. And so from here, I think there are still going to be companies that are going to try to utilize AI and misuse it, and it's going to kind of fall flat. Other companies that are going to use it as a marketing ploy. And then there'll be companies like ours, not just in the trading space, but in any other industry, where they are going to spend the time, spend the money, derive the expertise needed to help people and empower people and accomplish things that before weren't possible or weren't humanly possible. And I think that's where things are going to go with artificial intelligence.
I'm with you. I talked to a lot of software guys over the course of a career, 15 years in the trading business, and obviously running a company where we teach people how to trade the markets. I also, see all the software out there in the industry. I always tell people you've got 3 different choices. You got free, you got paid, you got premium. And paid software is something that is not as commonly targeted by traders as it was when I started. Do you think that just means that in your space, you got to provide more value? I mean, you've got to find a way to connect with what people need today. Do you see paid software as going away at some point in the future? Or do you think there will always be a role there?
Well, what's happened is over the years, things and software and technology that people used to pay for, you can now get for free. So
Thinkorswim's free.
Yeah, you look at your brokerage platform. You open up an account with any of the major brokerage firms. They're going to give you their platform. You're going to get all these different indicators and back testing and tools and techniques. Here's the problem: none of it is really proprietary or unique. So what you could get at E-Trade is pretty much the same thing you could get at TD Ameritrade and Schwab. I mean, up until recently, the only thing they were competing on is who can give you lower commission rates, right? Because their platforms all pretty much did the same thing. Now, for us, our software is proprietary. It is unique. You can't get it anywhere else. And it's not just kind of regurgitating the same old indicators that have been around for decades and decades. It's giving something that's unique and proprietary that gives people an edge over what they could get out of their brokerage platform, or by using, the usual suspects, moving averages, stochastics, all of the indicators that are widely known, widely used, and available for free. And so for us, as long as we continue to deliver value and provide an edge and give our users something they can't get anywhere else. And as the markets change and evolve, our technology continues to keep pace, then for us, yes, we will continue to be able to deliver premium software for a price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting to think about. Because if you're a new trader, you might not even know what an edge is, right? So brand new trader right off the turnip truck, they probably don't even know where to start. In fact, I met a lot of those type of people down at that expo in Vegas.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Lane, people that had no idea what they were looking at, and they were interacting with like 50 different companies that were all trying to I guess, get their business or whatever it is. But then this new trader's like, where the heck do I even start? It's just so overwhelming. A veteran trader who has an edge, maybe they're a day trader, maybe they just need the data or the back testing to kind of continue to keep that edge. I don't care if you've been trading 20, 30, 40 years. You need data. You need to know what's working in the market today. You talked about intermarket analysis. It's not like those relationships have stayed the same for 30 or 40 years. I mean, there is some of that, but some of that stuff can change, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, to your point, we met a lot of people at the expo. And some of the people were brand new. They hadn't started trading. And we like to talk to those people at that point in time because in many cases, if they're open and receptive, we can kind of short circuit their learning curve and help them to avoid a lot of mistakes, both time and money mistakes, by getting the edge in their hands from the beginning. Then there's other people who say, look, I've been kicking the can down the street for a while. I've been beaten up. I've made some costly mistakes. I know what's not working for me and I know what I need. I just don't know where to get it. And here's what that 9 times out of 10, here's what that is. It's I don't have the ability to actually anticipate or forecast what the market's going to do. I'm constantly reacting. And the problem is, as you know, Tim, if you find out about a trend after it's already developed and begun moving, you're late to the party. Now you're faced with, do I chase the train down the tracks? Or do I just sit this one out and wait for the next train? But again, the next train is going to also leave the station before you even find out about it. And so it really comes down to a timing issue. Being able to properly time when a trend is beginning, when a trend is ending, what direction the trend is going to go in, how strong is that trend expected to be. Very basic, very fundamental things that if you don't know the answers to those things at the right time, you're not going to be able to make the right decisions. And so that's what we're doing. Our analytics, if you boil it all down, and we're doing very advanced forms of intermarket analysis, very advanced forms of AI that we're utilizing, software that's been in development for over 30 years that we continue to refine. It's got 2 patents on it. I mean, this is heavy duty stuff, but ultimately it's trying to answer just a couple of questions, and it's answering those questions very, very accurately to the tune of 86%, where we're able to deliver to somebody the information they need to make the right decision in the right market or the right stock at the right time. And that is the missing ingredient for most people. And it's really sad because you meet a lot of people who are smart and they've got enough capital to work with. And some of them even know a lot about the markets. But if you can't make the right decision at the right time in the right stock, then all that's for naught.
Well, and even beyond that, I mean, even if you don't have a trading plan on how to execute it, or if you don't have money management on how to understand risk profiles, I mean, do you ever have clients where you're like, guys, I know we're providing value. If you're messing it up and you don't see it, you're doing something wrong. I mean, how do you get across with somebody that might be difficult? Let's say that somebody just over leverages their account. They got a small account and they put everything in all the time, and they're just missing the basic principles of markets.
Well, the first thing that we've done, and again, this comes back to, this is our 40th year anniversary. We've learned a lot. We've changed a lot. We've evolved a lot over the decades. But one of the things that we've learned and that we've changed is that we don't just make our software and our tools available to somebody and say, okay, you paid us money and here you go. Here's a very powerful tool. Because without the proper training, that tool could be misused. Yeah. And so for every single person that joins the Vantage Point family, they get the Vantage Point tools and indicators. We give them, we offer 6 months of coaching and training. Now, they don't need 6 months, but we make that available. Maybe they need 30 days or so, or a couple of weeks. The important thing is we don't want somebody to have a powerful tool, not know how to utilize it, or not utilize it to its fullest advantage, or worse yet, misuse it and not generate the types of results that we know it's capable of generating for them and the reason why they got it in the first place. And so that's a real important factor and something that we implemented. And it's really contributed significantly to customer success and satisfaction increasing. And it's something that in 2020, we're going to be incorporating even more training and education to go along and kind of dovetail with the tools. And that has been a tremendous factor so that people don't get to that point that you mentioned of saying, oh, this isn't working for me. And if somebody has unrealistic expectations, or they're, just tradeaholics and they just want to trade and they're like, basically gamblers, we try to figure that out up front as part of our qualification process, because if somebody's got that mentality, they're not going to be successful at the software. The people who are going to be successful are people who say, look, maybe I haven't been successful up to this point, but given the right tools and information, I'm going to implement it the way it's designed to be implemented and be successful. That's who we're looking for, and that's who we work with, and that's who we help.
Okay. I got 5 quick questions for you that I ask pretty much everybody who ever comes on and does an interview with me, and I kind of want to get into this as well. You ready for them?
Yes, sir.
So why did you get into the markets?
Well, for me, I didn't really have a choice. It was kind of through osmosis. I'm about your age, so when I was born, our company was already in existence. So I was born in March of 1980. So I was the firstborn of 3 boys, and being a family-owned and operated business, there was the lines between what was Dad's work and business and what was happening at the dinner table, they were blurred. So what did we talk about all the time? We talked about the markets. We talked about software, I had a computer when I was 2.5 years old. So for me, it wasn't a conscious decision of I want to get involved in trading, I want to get involved in the markets, or I want to be an entrepreneur. It just happened naturally and organically. And I'm giving my daughters that same opportunity where they can come into the office after school. I let them, listen to customer service calls. I teach them about what we're doing. They come to our in-person events and our seminars. And I'm hoping that, over time, they'll develop the same passion that I have for this business and for this industry, and that I can be a 73-year-old man one day and proud to have, my daughters in their 30s or 40s running a successful company and helping people and really making a difference.
I relate to it so much. Lane, you and I, we would have went to the same graduating high school class there in 1980. When you were born, I would have been in the September of 79. So you graduated high school in 98, I'm guessing?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. So, and I relate to this. I got 3 daughters, and I talk about it all the time about how to sit my kids down and try to make an impact on them and their thinking. And they're not always interested, but my oldest, 19, she's in our Army now, and recently she needs more money, wants more money. And the last couple of years, she's shown a lot more interest there, Lane. You know how it works. Yeah. Try to be that example for your kids. That's really, really cool. And then number 2.
I'll give you one example, something that I'm doing with my kids that I think everyone should do.
Yeah.
Is each of my daughters, we've opened up custodial accounts. I put money in the accounts for them. And we do research together. We go look at stocks, but I only pick for them. I use the Vantage Point software to kind of narrow it down. But the only stocks we end up buying are stocks that are companies that they know and that pay a dividend.
That's value investing 101 right there.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it you use, right? You use Facebook. Okay, so they probably don't. I think it's mostly the Facebook game's more of an old man's game like us right now.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, like my youngest daughter's 6, my oldest daughter's 9.
Yeah.
They own Amazon, they own Walmart, they own Target, they own Southwest Airlines, they own
what a cool idea.
Morgan, because their aunt works at JP Morgan. These are all companies. Disney, oh my gosh, we bought Disney at 90 something, and they've been holding on to that. And they asked me, how's the stock doing? I said, oh, Disney went up. They just launched a new product. It's going well. And so I'm getting them involved and engaged at a very young age at a level that they can comprehend and they can relate to. And that's just exactly what my dad did with me. And I'm replicating that very successful formula. And I think everyone, whether they own a business or not, it never hurts to start talking to your kids about investing and saving and getting them exposed and breaking down that intimidation factor of the financial markets at a young age.
You've probably been around a lot of analyticals, some other different types of traders. You are a software guy, so you're probably around engineer types, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. Don't want to paint you in a corner here. But what is your personal trading strength? Like, what are you good at?
I think my personal strength is I'm not in a hurry to do anything. I'm at a point in life where I'm financially free. I've got the freedom of time and money. So there's no pressure. There's no urgency of I have to trade or I have to do the. And so that means really waiting for the right opportunities. And Not everybody's in that same position, but I think everybody could kind of adapt their thinking to, no, I don't have to make a certain number of trades today, or I don't have to make a certain number of trades per month. I wait for the right trades, the right opportunities. And we have, I actually built this in our software. This was my concept, my idea of the IntelliScan feature, where it's an IntelliScan feature where you can set your criteria of what it is you're looking for, and the software will alert you to particular stocks that meet that criteria, and it narrows the whole universe down. Now you're not looking at the news or someone's whispering stock tips in your ear, or you hear something at a cocktail party. No, you wait for the IntelliScan to identify the ones that meet your own personal criteria, and each person can create their own scans, and you can have, I've got like 7 different scans myself, and you wait for the trades to come to you. That's
Patience.
the key. Yeah.
So you're a patient trader. I love it. I mean, when you've been around the markets for a long time and you're taught from your dad from a young age about the value of investing and that you don't have to double and triple your account. One of the things I really have a hard time with for new traders, because I know all the sharks out there, you get all these promises of you're going to turn $5,000 into 100 grand this year. And I'm just like, that's crazy, guys. Come on. I mean, you got to teach proper principles that investing involves risk, and there's reward and risk, and there's great opportunities like you were talking about with your kids, and you can be patient about it and still do great things. But it doesn't mean you're going to have financial freedom overnight. I mean, you are the president of a company that you've been a part of, that in a family business for now, 20 years here. So it does take time for you to get to that point of financial freedom. And I think patience is a good answer there. What is your daily routine? I mean, do you check the news? Do you watch CNBC? Do you go right into your brokerage account? Like, how do you approach the markets daily?
Well, I do most of it at night. When I come home from the office, and we're running a pretty sizable organization. We've got 70 employees. We're an Inc. 500 company. We're growing by leaps and bounds. That keeps me really busy during the day, and that's really what I like to stay focused on, because that's my legacy. That's, if I do a phenomenal job growing the company, that provides the opportunity for my daughters, and hopefully, if they have children that have that passion. So that is where I focus. Now, when I get home, my focus then shifts to family. I've been married for almost 12 years. I've got 2 daughters, which I absolutely adore. My parents actually, we have a large family ranch. They live on the property next to us. And so then I switch into family time. And it's all about being with them and sharing what my day was like and hearing what their day was like. Once everybody is kind of, they've had dinner, they're off to bed, that's when I do my scans. And the scans are available every evening after 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And so there's no pressure. The market's not open. It's not like, I got to make a decision right now. I'm missing something. Markets are moving. None of that's happening. The markets are closed. And so I can run those scans. I can look at the IntelliScan to see if there are any new stocks that have met my criteria that I need to start to look at more seriously for a possible trade tomorrow, as well as managing any open positions that I have. Mm-hmm. And if I want to make any adjustments, then I can just go into my brokerage platform, set limit orders or sell orders or buy limit orders for whatever I want to do the next day. But I actually don't have to do anything while the markets are open, which is nice because, again, it goes back to patience and not having this pressure. I've got, anytime after 6:30 p.m. all the way till 9:30 a.m. the next day to decide what I want to do and actually implement. And I think that people who have shifted to that type of mentality using our software versus what they were doing beforehand, that alone, just relieving that pressure valve and being able to take your time. It takes me about 15 to 20 minutes, but there's no distractions. There's nothing else going on. I'm not at work. There are no interruptions. And it really, being able to trade and make trading decisions when the markets are closed, I think is a tremendous advantage.
Well, having a process, there's no doubt about it. I mean, now, whatever that is, whether it's in the evening or the morning or at middle of the day, I always tell people when I'm, coaching or talking to new traders, it's got to have consistency to it, right? And then you have to apply your system with an edge in the markets. Sounds like, it fits into your lifestyle. You can still be an entrepreneur and a business person and a family man and still have investing as a part of it. And I think that's the lesson right there. Investing doesn't have to take over 24 hours of your life. It doesn't matter who you are, what background you're in, whether you're doing things manually or all automated. guys, being an investor should be just second nature, quite frankly. It's financial education, it's financial literacy, in my opinion. Lane, thank you very much for coming to our podcast and just talking about markets a little bit. I meet a lot of people in the industries, and I know a good one when I meet one, and you're one of them. I can tell that you're trying to help people and give people value and all that kind of stuff. I got to tell you, I don't always see that. I think what you said earlier was pinpoint. There's probably at least half of the companies that are pitching products or software, and I'm just like, oh my God, really? MACD crosses from 20 years ago? Are you guys serious? I mean, what in the world is this? It's like they haven't even updated their pitch or their PowerPoint or even their content in probably 15 or 20 years. And I'm like, I know that's old content, and I know it probably doesn't even work anymore because I'm a trader every day, right? And so you see a lot of that. So keep on doing the good work, my friend.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. That was fun.
Yep, I agree. All right, and we will be right back after this break from Trading Justice.
TJ Podcast.